Hey Hylians! With the newest Direct, we got the reveal of an all-new Legend of Zelda game. That alone is extremely exciting, especially as it's a new top-down Zelda, something that I've been wanting to see for a while now. But the standout thing about this new upcoming game is that this will be the first official mainline Zelda game where we have Zelda in the starring role. This is something myself and many of you have been asking to see for years now, and to finally have it happen is an amazing thing. But even though this is Zelda's first time starring in a mainline Zelda game, this isn't the first time that she's been playable. In fact, she's been playable in quite a few games in the past. So today I want to take you back through all of the past games where Princess Zelda herself is a playable character. I'll quickly say that I won't be including costumes or unlocks of the character in other games, as there are a handful and I want to stick to times that she is an actual playable character. So with all that said, let's go back to the first game that she was playable in, all the way back in the 90s. Yeah, we're starting with the CDI games. If you need a quick refresher on how these infamous games came to be, well, back in the 90s, Nintendo and Sony were working together to make the Nintendo PlayStation. That ended up falling through, and so Nintendo teamed up with Philips to allow them to make some games for their Philips CDI system with some of Nintendo's popular characters. And from what I know, Nintendo really had nothing to do with these games apart from letting them be made. And since their release, Nintendo have completely abandoned them and not acknowledged them in any way. Not hard to see why. There are 3 different Zelda CDI games, 1 starring Link and 2 starring Princess Zelda herself as the main playable character. Those 2 games are Zelda the Wand of Gamelon and Zelda's Adventure. Despite both being for the same system and both starring Zelda, the 2 games are quite different from one another. The Wand of Gamelon uses the side-scrolling style from Adventure of Link, and Zelda's Adventure uses the classic top-down gameplay from Zelda 1. The stories of both games are simple, but both do have one thing in common that even carries over to Echoes of Wisdom, that being that Zelda needs to save Link. While it's not the most groundbreaking story point, it still works. The sad thing about Zelda in these games is she really is just a female Link. The Wand of Gamelon and Faces of Evil control pretty much the same, and Link and Zelda both do all the same actions and animations. And in Zelda's Adventure, it's kinda the same way, with Zelda just working in a very similar way to Link in Zelda 1. Both Zeldas in both games use a sword, so it doesn't really give them anything to make them unique from Link. But to give a little bit of leeway to these games, at the time that they were made, there wasn't as much story and character put into the main Zelda games, so Zelda being known as more of a magic and bow user wouldn't have been a known thing. While these games are not really the best and mainly live on as memes and jokes now, it still is interesting and kinda cool that they are the first instances of Princess Zelda being a playable character. And this would remain the only instance of playable Zelda for a very, very long time. While Zelda may not be the main playable character in Spirit Tracks, we still do get to play and control her many times throughout the game, and Spirit Tracks up until Echoes of Wisdom has been the only mainline Zelda game where we can play as Zelda. In Spirit Tracks, Link and Zelda really work as a team, and while her gameplay might not be the most exciting at first, it works well to make her a helpful companion. Probably still to this day the most helpful and active a companion to Link has been. Zelda is only controllable in certain parts of Spirit Tracks, and how you control her is by drawing a path on the DS touchscreen or Wii U gamepad for her to follow. You first get to control her while helping her escape from Hyrule Castle, and you just need to make sure that she gets past the guards without being spotted. After escaping the castle, Link and Zelda run into Cole and Burn, and this fight results in Zelda's spirit being separated from her body and leaving her as a ghost. At first it seems like a pretty bad thing, but we soon learn that as a ghost, Zelda can take over and possess the deadly phantoms found in the Tower of Spirits. As a phantom, not only does Zelda follow us around, but we can now control her to help us do certain things, like opening doors, hitting switches, carrying us through lava, and fighting enemies. And while as a phantom, Zelda is a force to be reckoned with. Controlling the phantom armor makes her very strong, and so she can easily help us by holding bigger monsters in place to let Link get to a weak point. Different phantoms Zelda can possess also have different abilities, like teleporting or rolling around, so there's always something new for her to do every couple of floors up the tower. Controlling both Link and Zelda in this game is so much fun, and it leads to many fun and interesting puzzles throughout the Tower of Spirits. It is a little sad that we can't play as Phantom Zelda outside of the Tower of Spirits, but we still get to control her a lot throughout the game on each visit to the tower. We even get to play as her within a couple of boss fights, swapping between her and Link to close in on the boss or shield Link from attacks. So though at first her gameplay may seem quite simple and not have much to it, Zelda in Spirit Tracks really is a surprisingly fun character to play as throughout the game. But still, after this amazing game, it was another long wait until we got to play as Princess Zelda again. Hyrule Warriors is the perfect Zelda fan service game, letting us play as so many fan favourite and lesser known characters throughout the series, and of course that includes Princess Zelda. For a lot of people, this is seen as her very first playable role in a Zelda game, as she has a lot more to do when compared to Spirit Tracks. Within this game, Zelda has a couple of different weapons to pick from, like her rapier and the Dominion Rod first seen in Twilight Princess, and also the Wind Waker. But with Hyrule Warriors being a very different game when compared to classic Zelda, these weapons do not work exactly as they do in their original games. The Wind Waker isn't even a weapon in its original game, but it's still so much fun seeing Zelda fighting with each of them. It's within this game where we also get to fight as Sheik for the first time in the Zelda series, who gets to use their harp and knives as weapons. The idea of having a Zelda game where we get to play as Zelda who has the ability to transform into Sheik has been something myself and many others have wanted to see for a very long time. So having both within this game is just a little look at that possibility. I love how both of them fight in different ways that perfectly reflect both the princess and the Sheikah, and it's a very nice touch. But we also have another Zelda in this game, as they chose to bring back Zelda from Spirit Tracks, who also gets her own unique weapons and moves. The fun part about bringing her back though is that they chose to put her back in her phantom armor, so we can see more of what she might have fought like in Spirit Tracks, and it's really still so cute. But there's another one. While she doesn't transform into Zelda within this game, it felt wrong not including Tetra while including Sheik. Tetra, like the others, has her own unique moveset focusing on her gun and sword. Yes, there is a Zelda character in an official Zelda game who uses a gun, and it's practically Zelda herself. So that's not just one or two, but 4 Zeldas technically, that all have different moves and weapons to use in Hyrule Warriors, and each of them are so much fun to play and control. Phantom Zelda and Tetra were both added much later in the game's life, but still having an all-new Princess Zelda and Sheik for us to play as in this game was already super fun and exciting when the game first came out. It's also really nice that within this game we also have the story mode, where we get to see a lot of Zelda and Sheik interacting with Link, Impa and other characters from across the Zelda series, and these moments are all very cool and fun. Like I said at the start of this section, Hyrule Warriors really is a game made for fans, and maybe one day I'll make a full video on it, as it really is one of my favourite games. But after this, it was still a bit of time before we got to play as Princess Zelda again, though luckily not as long as the other times. I want to start off by saying I'm still surprised that Cadence of Hyrule even exists. The game is a Riven adventure game made by the people who gave us the game Crypt of the Necrodancer, and it's not just a DLC update or a couple of characters from Zelda put into the game, but its completely own thing. This is a Zelda game made by an indie company, and that is amazing. In this game, we get to play as Zelda, and later down the line in the game's life, they also added in Shadow Zelda for us to play as. With the type of game that Cadence of Hyrule is, there isn't too much difference between each of the characters, as the main thing for you to do is move around with the music. Though each character does have their own signature abilities, Zelda and Shadow Zelda's abilities being Nehru's Love and a shadowy version of it that reflects back attacks like a shield, and also Din's Fire, and again a shadowy version of it that explodes to damage enemies and can also burn things down. Zelda can also find the Royal Rapier that is a weapon only she can use that does 2 damage when lunging. Like I said, there isn't too much to the characters of this game as it is a rhythm game, but it still is really nice to have not 1 but 2 Zeldas playable in it. And again, it's amazing this game even exists. Before we get to the final Zelda game, I want to talk a little bit about Smash Bros, as I wasn't quite sure where to put it on this list, as it's a long ongoing series that's been around for a while now. So let's just put it here before we get to the end. While not part of the Zelda series, it does include many characters from the games, and of course Zelda is one of them. And for many of us, this is the first time we ever got to play as the character. Zelda first appeared in the second Smash Bros game, Smash Bros Melee, along with Sheik as a character that you could swap to within battle. And since then, she's gone to show up in every other Smash Bros game along with Link and Ganondorf. For the most part, her moves have stayed pretty much the same over all these years, mainly using magic attacks based on Nehru's Love, Din's Fire and Ferori's Wind. The biggest change for the character coming from Smash Bros Wii U and 3DS, when Sheik was made their own separate character, and so Zelda needed something to replace the move that Sheik once occupied. So it's here that we got Zelda using the Phantom Armor to attack, and as someone who loves the Phantoms, I'm very happy to see this return yet again alongside the princess. Zelda has also had a couple of different designs in the series, her first being her Ocarina of Time design, then moving on to her Twilight Princess design, which stayed around for multiple games, and finally her most recent look that takes a lot of inspiration from games like A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds. Sheik has also had some changes over time, their Smash Bros Brawl look actually coming from an unused design for Twilight Princess, and if you want to know a little bit more about that, I made a full video on it a while ago. It's good, check it out. The final game is Age of Calamity, and while it is another Warriors game, it is a little bit more interesting as the Zelda we get to play as is one we got to see before this game, and the game itself, while a little bit uncertain on how much, plays into Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. The game takes place 100 years before the events of Breath of the Wild, and so we get to see the lead up to everything going wrong for Zelda and her kingdom. It's something that many of us wanted to see, and so to be able to play as Zelda in this time makes these events hit even more. Like in Hyrule Warriors, Zelda in Age of Calamity has a couple of different weapons to use, and they work well with her character. She uses the Sheikah Slate and its runes along with the Bow of Light. These weapons make perfect sense for her as her bow is seen as her main character weapon, and the Sheikah Slate is mainly seen with her before Link takes it in Breath of the Wild. While using the Bow of Light, Zelda also uses her hidden power, which I think is a lovely touch. There is also another weapon that came out in DLC, and that is the Master Cycle Zero. It's Link's bike in Breath of the Wild, but Zelda rocks driving it around Hyrule and using it to fight monsters. Playing Zelda in this game, like the original Hyrule Warriors, is so much fun, and it really is nice to have a past Zelda playable in a game that still somewhat connects with their own story. It's cool seeing the struggles that she has to go through while playing as her, seeing how much she's fighting with everyone else to stop what we all know will happen. This game is also part of why I thought Zelda would end up being playable in Tears of the Kingdom, along with her redesign for that game. But sadly, that obviously didn't happen. Well, it maybe didn't happen with Tears of the Kingdom, but it finally has with Echoes. So those are all the games where Zelda is playable before Echoes of Wisdom. It really is a nice selection. Not a crazy amount, but a nice variety of games and gameplay styles to use as her. Even with all these games though, it really is so nice and exciting that Zelda finally has her own starring role within the series. The series is named after her. It's a surprise it took this long. As someone who's been playing the series for years, I remember when I was little, wishing that I could have a game where I could play as the princess herself. So it's nice that other little girls and boys who enjoy the series now have the chance to play as her. It's been so much fun looking back at all these games and seeing how Zelda played within each of them. So do tell me which of these games is your favourite and what you're most looking forward to within Echoes of Wisdom. I really do hope that this game leads to Nintendo making some more games starring Princess Zelda down the road, as I think a lot of us would still love to see that Zelda and Sheik game. But that's all for now. Thank you for watching all the way to the end of today's video. I hope you've all enjoyed. If you have, don't forget to give the video a like. It's just a single click and it does show me that you are enjoying my content. If you're not yet subscribed, then please do. I'm hoping to get to 6,000 subscribers before Echoes of Wisdom comes out. I think that would be really fun. So if you could, it would mean a lot to help me out. And hey, before you go, why not leave a comment about what you thought of the video, Zelda, or really anything else. Thank you all once again for watching to the end of today's video. I hope you have all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!